Okay, in my line of work, I regularly come across people who sometimes you get so frustrated with them. They've got issues, they've got problems, but they are so preoccupied and so wound up or bound up with one issue which most people would consider to be relatively minor and relatively trivial. And it can be very, very frustrating trying to help them or advise them, because they clearly have a complete and utter preoccupation with something that's relatively trivial. Now, it could be a change of description of their job or role, or it could be something relatively minor in their contract of employment, or relatively minor in a work practice. But the incredibly frustrating thing is being able to restrain oneself, quite frankly, from saying to them, look, would you ever get over it? This is a trivial thing. In 6 months' time, or a year's time, or 2 years' time, you will have completely forgotten about this. That brings me on to the subject matter of this video, and that is 3 things that I am going to tell you in the video which are going to make your life far better and far happier if you adopt the 3 principles that I'm going to put forward. These are principles that I have always held, but I never actually understood that I never actually understood that there was a psychiatric or psychological basis for them. Let me explain. Firstly, I'm reading a book at the moment there, or rather listening to an audio book at the moment, called The Chimp Paradox. The Chimp Paradox is a book written by a lecturer and psychiatrist in the United Kingdom. I think his name is Steve Peters, although I'm not 100%. And in the book he explains how the human brain works and how we lose the head from time to time in, for example, road rage incidents, how we might lose the head in the job, or lose patience and have rows with loved ones, how we spend a lot of time not being happy, how we can't restrain ourselves when it comes to food, and we put on weight and we get depressed, and so on and so forth. The book is an excellent one, and it is soundly principled, or soundly based in psychiatric or psychological principles. It's not a quack book, or it's not a book, hold hands and sing Kumbaya and we're all going to be, make recitations or chants every morning in the mirror and you're going to conquer the world. It's actually scientifically based and psychiatrically based, or based in sound principles. But in the book he discusses and he sets out 3 principles which I've always held, but I've been bolstered, I suppose, and reaffirmed by reading or listening to the book, because the 3 principles for a happy life, 3 philosophies, 3 critical things that you must accept, are as follows. Number 1, life is not fair. Life sometimes goes pear-shaped and things go wrong and shit happens, accidents happen. And if you accept, though, at the outset that life is not fair, when you do come across a speed bump or a roadblock or an issue or a problem, then if you have started out with the principle and acceptance that life is not fair, you're going to be in a far, far better position to deal with it. The second sound philosophy, sound principle for a happy life is the goalposts move. In other words, circumstances change, situations change, facts change, relationships change, businesses change, and your job, for example, will probably change. So the goalposts move. The problems sometimes change and sometimes evolve, and they don't stay static, and you don't have to address the same problem all the time. So firstly, life isn't fair. Secondly, the goalposts move. And thirdly, there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees. You do your best, you put your best foot forward. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes you succeed, sometimes you fail, sometimes you partially succeed, sometimes you partially fail. Sometimes you have a complete abject failure, and sometimes you lose your absolute shirt. You lose everything that you've ever worked for in one fell swoop. For example, when the property market went tits up a few years ago, I lost everything. However, if you have a philosophy that there are no guarantees, life isn't fair and circumstances change, you're in a far, far better position to deal with serious or less serious setbacks, and you're far better able to deal with various changes in your life as well. So, to get back to where I started with this short video, people sometimes, as I say, have issues in work and have issues in various aspects of their life, and they come into me for advice, and sometimes it's actually with great difficulty that you actually stay seated and don't get up and shake them and say, Jesus, will you get over it? You know what I mean? You're going to forget about this in 12 months time. This is relatively trivial. You have your health, you have great opportunity, you have whatever. So that is my view about how to make your life, and indeed my life, and to be honest with you, it's always been my philosophy that, you know, stuff does happen, life isn't fair, but you get on with it. And to be honest with you, if you come from a sporting background and you've played a lot of sport, you actually learn that from a very, very early age, which is very useful. But if you haven't, those three principles will serve you well, and you won't have unrealistic or unreasonable rather, expectations about life. So life isn't fair, the goalposts move, and there are no guarantees. Hope you find this video useful. If you do, give it a thumbs up down below, and you might be interested in subscribing to my YouTube channel. And now I have to feed my birds.